All right. Well, hello, welcome. For those of you whom I haven't met, I'm Katie Hendricks. My actual given name is Kathleen, but it's been mispronounced by everybody, including Oprah. So I've gone by Katie for many years. I'm going to just let my cat in. I'll be right back. I'm very excited to share with you tonight what I consider the prevalent game on the planet. And it's one that I think it's time for us to get a new game. I think it's time for us to invent a new game. And people persist in thinking that they're creating a new game. It was reminding me of, I think it was Edna St. Vincent Millay, who said, it's not one thing after another. It's the same damn thing over and over. And I think that's the best definition of the drama triangle that's really ever come along. And I've been playing with and exploring, the drama triangle for at least 25 years, probably 30, and have taught thousands of people how to play with the drama triangle all over the world. What I'm most proud of is being able to teach the drama triangle in China. That was pretty exciting. So to go to a completely different culture and find out that they also are very acquainted with the drama triangle. So what I want to share with you today is how to recognize that you're on the triangle and how to shift off of the triangle in ways that allow you to enjoy your life more and more, to enjoy more spontaneity, to actually enjoy, because we think that we're getting energy from the drama triangle, but what we're really getting is adrenaline over and over and over again. And when there's a certain amount of adrenaline that keeps getting released, we get into adrenal fatigue. It makes us more susceptible to getting ill, to not really being able to enjoy, not being able to connect, because adrenaline is just right up there next to fear. And when we're in fear, we can't think. We think we're thinking because the brain's still going, but it's going in ways that are not really generating any creativity. They're just going round and round and round again. And that'll make more sense to you as we start playing with the drama triangle, which was first really identified by Stephen Karpman. I think it was back in the 60s. It might have been the 50s or in the 60s. And he called these particular roles the victim, the rescuer, and the persecutor. And when I started playing with it, I decided to update those names. And so we still have the victim, because what can replace the victim, right? So, but then we have the hero instead of the rescuer, and the villain. What was so cool is that when I was starting to get ready for this class, I said, I just know I have these cards somewhere. And so I just tuned in. We use part of our garage for filing. And so I just went out there and I put my hand on within 2 minutes. It was so cool. So I thought, okay, I'm relatively free of the drama because I can sense into things, I can find things. So I want to talk about, and actually have you play with, what are the body signals that you're occupying the triangle. So first, let me just tell you about some of the familiar dynamics, and then have you identify an issue in your life. I'd like everybody to have an issue to play with, to explore. So it could be a recurring issue. It doesn't have to be between you and another person, because we can absolutely do the triangle inside ourselves. So if you've got like a recurring issue that keeps kind of, that's the one that I'd like you to identify and use for your exploration tonight. It could be an interpersonal It could be having something to do with you and the world, or you and God, or you and your next door neighbor, but it could also be something that you do inside yourself. So I'd like you to keep that in mind as we're talking about this, like what's that item that would be most valuable for you to explore? And I'd like to see, would you be willing to have a good time with the triangle? Because we treat this as it's very serious. And if I'm on the triangle or you're on the triangle, it's really bad. And so people tend to keep it secret, which keeps you on the triangle. There are all kinds of things that keep you in the triangle, and not having a good time is one of them. So I'd like you to, first of all, just take on this is serious posture and facial expression. This is serious. And don't you dare make fun of this, because this is serious stuff. And then just notice how you organize your body to be serious. I can see a whole bunch of you stop breathing. You're taking a breathing and you stop moving. So one of the best ways that you can break free of the triangle is to let yourself breathe and let yourself move. It's really that simple. Because when we're in the triangle, we tend to get into certain patterns. And I want to help you identify those patterns, one, so that you can befriend them. Like, oh, there you are again. Oh, I know this one. Okay, what can we do to shift this one so that we're not doing the same damn thing over and over again? Our world has gotten pretty obsessed with the drama triangle, especially in recent years. So let me just help you identify this. When I was growing up, in the movies, one thing that was really, really popular was the cowboys and the Indians. And guess which ones were the villains and which ones were the heroes? Because always, who's the victim? The townspeople. And so it's either the bad guys run into town and the good guys confront them, and the townspeople go running and, oh dear. So that's one example of the good guys, the bad guys, and the victims. So the heroes, the sheriff, I'm the sheriff, I've come to town. And you might think of them as the villain, but I'm sure they thought of themselves as the hero. And then, of course, we have who's it lying across the railroad tracks? I can't remember that one. It'll come to me. If someone remembers that one, just call it out. But it's really,
Dudley Do-Right.
I can't pay the bills. You must pay the bills. I can't pay the bills. I must pay the bills. I'll pay the bills. So that's another hero, victim, villain. Think about work situations. So in a normal sort of, if we have that anymore, a corporate setting, who are the victims? So are the employees the victims? Okay, and who's the villain? Usually it's management. And who are the heroes? So as a former corporate consultant, I know what it's like to walk in there as being assigned this role, the hero, and walking into the fight between, you're the bad guy and I'm the victim. We do this at a national level. We do this at an international level. So right now we're acting out the good guys and the bad guys and who's going to be the hero. So with Russia and the NATO countries, and then Ukraine. So is Ukraine the victim? So what I hear them saying is, we're not the victim. We can take care of ourselves. We're going to arm ourselves. And so that dynamic, I think if you look anywhere, you're going to see this dynamic. And the thing is, people think that I'm doing something when I'm doing what I call running around the bases. because I'm generating a lot of energy. And so it seems like I'm really doing something. But we're really doing what Gay a long time ago called, that many people have adopted, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. So it really looks like you're doing something, but the ship is going down. So all of the Strumendrang that we use in running around the bases is such a waste of our vital creative energy. And the big reward that we get is adrenaline. So what you can get reliably by being in the triangle is that burst of adrenaline, that ha ha ha, and that spike of adrenaline. So just think about a recent situation in which you were convinced that you were right. In fact, I'd like you to take on a being right posture. However, this is one, but there's also this one. Listen, you got to get your chin up when you do that. And when you're being right, and think of somebody else whom you're being right about, somebody else whom you're convinced is wrong. And then let yourself just enjoy that little burst of adrenaline that you get for being right and absolutely knowing that they're wrong. Can you feel that? It's a kind of a whoo that runs up the front of your body. It can give you a little bit of sweaty palms. It can make you think that you're thinking, but you're actually just accelerating the adrenaline. And that's when people tend to make stupid mistakes. Like, I can pass that person. There's plenty of room to pass that person. So take a moment to assess the amount of adrenaline that you're using as a fuel. So how much are you fueling yourself from poor me, poor you, and excuse my French, fuck you. So those are the bases. Poor me, poor you, and fuck you. And that's what keeps all of this going. So I'd like you to just take a moment and assess for yourself how much of your fuel is being drained off by adrenaline. And I predict that that is in a large part of being caught in the pattern that's so prevalent right now of, if we just take a look at, I'm looking at you, Rod, and thinking about the recent trucker debacle in Ottawa, and just identify like who sees themselves as the victims there. I would guess the truckers. And who's the villain? The government. And who are the heroes? Can you be the victim and the hero at the same time? You can if you run around the bases fast enough. So something I'd like you to consider when you're feeling stuck, you're at an impasse, I'd like you to consider, am I running the bases right now? Because people think that they're actually generating a new solution when, in my opinion, I'd like you to check this out, what you're actually doing is just releasing adrenaline. And here's the thing about adrenaline. It is not a renewable resource. And it has a very short half-life. So you get that burst, but then it fades off really quickly. So what do people have to do to get more adrenaline? They have to escalate. So you get more into your roles. You go around faster, you point more to get that same burst of adrenaline. And the ultimate outcome of that is war. So I think of the triangle as being part of the war machine, and that each of us can stop war by stopping it in our repetitive addiction to the drama triangle. And I'd like to want to just pause for a moment and see if anybody has if you have an aha, or you have a question that's just arisen. And if you'd like to just put your electronic hand up and great. So Tracy, just go ahead and unmute yourself. We won't spotlight or anything, but just go ahead and speak it out.
Okay. Well, I was just realizing that that when I'm taking care of sick people, which I often do, that I go into a hero, and they go into a victim, and I'm like, wow, I never thought of it like that before. And how can I change that dynamic?
Exactly. What a great question. And that's a great pattern to identify, because when you're taking care of someone who's sick, is it possible to do that without going into hero?
Yeah.
And is it possible to be sick and not be a victim?
Definitely.
So, and I think those are really, really important questions. But there's also, here's one key thing about the triangle, is that if I go into hero, there are only two other bases available. So if I'm going into victim, the choice for the other person is either to be the villain or to be the hero, or to try and push me off of the victim position. So Gay and I say really that all arguments are a race for the victim position. Because nobody's going to say, oh yeah, that's right, I really was the villain here. Thank you so much for pointing that out. No, it doesn't happen. So it's really, there was this wonderful Paul Klee drawing that I saw years ago that was an etching of these two naked guys, and gnarly old naked guys, and one of them was bent over like this, and the other was bent over even deeper, and the tag on it was two people meeting each other, each thinking the other of higher position. So there's this dynamic. When you start tuning into it, it's everywhere. And so what I want to underline, Tracy, is the power of your wonder question. And I can show you a couple of things that I've found very reliable, both to identify when I'm in the triangle and how to release the triangle. But just that wondering, that witnessing and wondering, is already a step of making more space where you're not caught in it. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you.
Super. And anybody else? Did anybody else have anything they want to jump in and add right now? I see Elizabeth, I see your finger over your mouth. I'm just wondering, did you have something you wanted to say there?
You read my mouth. No, when people collaborate to both be victims towards another person.
Yeah, it's me and you against the world.
So mean. He's so, yeah. That's also some kind of something.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So that would be a great one for you to explore. So here's one thing I want to invite you to do. If you have the facility to easily do this, I'd like you to get 3 pieces of paper and label them, because this activity, and when you do it at home, is so much more powerful if you have the props. Because if you're just doing it inside your head, it's not as powerful as if you have your 3 pieces of paper. I have these laminated now because I can write on them. And there's kind of like placemats. And we've actually had people whose kids use these as placemats, and we'll call, okay, let's do the triangle. And then they just use these, they keep them in the kitchen. So it's something that I found that kids are actually much more skilled than adults at learning how to play this. So one will say villain, one will say victim, and one will say hero. I had them color coded for years, but then we started having them different colors every year, and then it got very confusing. Like, wait a minute. The villain shouldn't be pink. All right. So what I have found is that identifying my own pattern is the most powerful first step. We would all love to be professional critics and evaluate other people's occupying of the triangle. That can have some fun to it, but it usually comes from villain. And if I can readily say, oh, I just realized I stepped into victim, that identification, just as Tracy was talking about, gives me already freedom from the pattern. I'm not inside of it. I'm making more space for me to explore. So I have a very reliable way of identifying which roles we're in. And I'd like you to all try them on with me. So I'm standing, I'm going to just point down for a second because I want you to be able to see me, but let's see, can you also see the cards here? Hold on. The limits, the pleasures and limits of working from your home. All right. Yeah, because it's probably easiest to see. Can you see me? Okay. I'm going to just put this up because you need to be able to see what I'm doing. All right, so right now I'm standing on victim. So I'd like you there. What I found is that there are 3 different levels of each of these. And so I invite you, if you really want to get this, do this along with me. So the first victim move is a shrug. It's the shrug. And what comes with the shrug is like, what? What? No, I didn't do that, or, oh, well, it's kind of the shrug and the give up, the shrug and the let go. So we call this victim light. Now, mid-level victim is the shrug and the sigh. You can just feel yourself wanting to say, oh, poor me, or poor you. And then full-on victim is the shrug and the whine. So I wanted to really go for it, like complaining about the thing that just happened. It's just not fair, it's not right. And notice how that feels to you. Now, you may want to jump right out of this into something else, but I want to invite you to really own how you go into victim. So victim is a collapse, so let yourself collapse. And you kind of sit on yourself so you can't really breathe. So if you look at me from the side, I'm sort of collapsed on top of myself. And I don't really have any agency. My arms are sort of noodly. And the only time that this is, I was standing on a corner one time in Ireland, and I must have gone into victim because within 5 minutes, I had 6 or 7 people come up and ask if they could help. And I was just standing there on the corner. It may be an Irish thing. And since I'm like 41% Irish, they probably recognize me. So the people will respond by wanting to help. And that's one of the things that keeps the victim going. But just notice how much energy you have in victim. And how the world just looks like, oh, nothing works. Because when I'm in victim, the world looks different. Okay, so in victim, we have, it's basically poor me, but I want you to feel how you do that in your body. So it's going to be, and you'll see this if you just look around. Like sometimes, when we were kids and my mom would say, who did that? We'd all shrug, like, not me, wasn't me, it was them. So the victim collapses creative energy and gets smaller generally. So now I'm going to jump over to the villain. The villain specializes. So the victim whines. So I'd also like you to be listening for that in how you speak, including how you speak to yourself. So if you speak to yourself and you're whining, you're in victim. And so what we generally do is then jump over to villain and go, knock it off. So the villain blames. So let's do, there's villain light, mid-level villain, and supreme villain. So the first level of villain is what I call tisking. So it's just a light little, it's a light little blame. You can do it to yourself. You can do it to others. So let yourself just try on your own form of tisking. Tisking can also be like, I'm very famous for what people call the look. So if I am very disapproving of somebody, I can give them the look. And if that doesn't, it's like a little, you know, if in Harry Potter, it would be the snake coming up and going, and then back away. So, I mean, it's also a little warning, you know, it's like your tail rattling when you're doing villain light, you're warning. Okay, and then mid-level villain would be So you're starting to use your pointer. So it's So in my family, it came out like, if you kids keep that up, somebody is going to get hurt. And we always, of course, heard that as a prescription. And then, of course, somebody would get hurt. So the mid-level blame, now direct it to you, because that's often where villain goes. So the can be, oh, there you go again. How many times have I told you? La, 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 la. So it has that, but it has that pointy finger blame to it. So notice how you point your finger. So there's the wiggle waggle. There's the emphasis point. There's the pointing to the, so what's your version of pointy? Pointy, pointy. And you can do that without any sound, but if you add sound to it, it can be even more fun. The jump. You know, that's the other one where it works up, wherever people say, stop it, stop it. So those are all villain moves. So, but for the big full out villain, you need both guns. Okay, so both pointers, and you're going to spray the whole territory. Ha 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 ha. You can blame God. You can blame those people across the street. Ha 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 ha. And you can blame yourself. Ha 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 ha. So notice I got a little burst of sweat on that one. So I got a big burst of adrenaline. Could you feel that one? This one, I got little tingles in my legs, and I can feel this. So, you know, it's no wonder people go into villain, because that's like, whoa, I can create that much energy. But I want you to notice that it's already dropping off. Can you feel that? It's already peaked and it's starting to subside. And I can feel myself then now starting to collapse again, because it's like I blew myself up in the victim, and then I don't have that energy. And so there's a tendency to go back over here into victim and to collapse again, unless I can find a way to accelerate, you know, to accelerate the villain. So this is when somebody steps in and says, okay, now settle down, settle down. We can work this out. So the hero, I first started noticing the hero when I was practicing as a therapist, because I'd be in a group, I'd be facilitating a group, and someone would start crying. And while they were crying, they had their eyes closed. 4 people were holding out Kleenexes to them. Okay, so the hero helps without being asked. So just notice that. So the tendency, almost all of us, we want to be of assistance. We want to contribute to others. And where that gets tricky is when they didn't ask for any help. That's part of what's going on in Ukraine, because the leader of Ukraine is saying, hey, we're taking responsibility for our own defense. This is our country. And other people, in fact, I think that America has had a decades-long hero problem. And that's why we have troops all over the world. One comedian here, Bill Maher, has said something I think is absolutely correct. He says, we never leave. So we still have people in Korea, we still have people in Germany, we still have people, and now we're bringing more people in. So that's what happens with hero, is that you have to just keep giving and giving without being asked. So hero light, like you to try on your own version of, oh, here, let me help. Here, let me help. And notice how sweetly you can say that. Oh, here, let me help. I can help. Here, let me help. So you need to realize that hero takes you out of your own body. It takes you out of your own body parameters. So here, let me help. You're getting over into somebody else's grill. You're taking more than 100% responsibility. So here, let me help is the Kleenex move. And one of the most powerful things that I did in those sessions was say, wait until somebody asks. And it was very difficult for people not to rush in and help. So here's mid-level hero. I'd like you to hoist the world, okay, on your shoulders, because heroes will just keep taking on things. Sure, I can stay late. Sure, I don't have plans tonight. I can take care of that. Yeah, you go on ahead. And it takes us into martyr. So this is the world. And the phrase is, I can handle it, no problem. I got it, no problem. I got it. Yeah, so just imagine doing this all day, every day, with a bunch of weight and more weight added. And just see how long you can do that. Yeah, so that's mid-level. That's only mid-level hero, because full-on hero is the one hand up and one hand back, and you go, and you put your cape on, and you go, dun, 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 to the rescue, dun, dun, dun. And so you may not realize it, but what you're getting there is adrenaline. So how you get adrenaline as the hero is by becoming Mighty Mouse. I mean, that was when I was growing up. Now, the heroes have Transformer armor, and they fly between universes, and they blow up whole worlds. So, back in the day when it was just the two gunslingers drawing on each other, that seems real primitive to what we've got going now as the drama triangle escalates.
So Katie, so that would be considered martyrdom at that point.
Yes. So
Okay.
Martyrdom, thanks for asking. So the hero goes back, it has basically, so I want to give you some combos now. So that's a great one. So what's the martyr? The martyr has 1 foot in hero and 1 foot in victim. Don't worry about me. You guys, you go on ahead, have a good time. I'll clean up the kitchen. It's okay. So can you feel the collapse in it, but also the, I got it. Yeah. So most of our patterns are little combos. And I would say that most of our troublesome personas have their home in the triangle. In fact, one thing that would be really fun for you, which we do in some of our I used to do in longer trainings, is what are some of your most familiar personas? And personas are roles that we take on when our being doesn't get us attention anymore. We've all come in essence. And what we mean by that is that you're in touch with yourself and your aliveness, and you're in touch with what's greater than you, but you're able to enjoy being, and other people celebrate you for your being. But at some point, your being becomes inconvenient for your caretakers, and so you take on doings, and personas are doings. Come on in, girl. My cat Allie loves to be in here when I'm speaking. She loves to hear my voice. So now she's happy. She's come in the door. So if you're, let's just name some of these personas. Like I took on super responsible very, very early on, because that was a way that I could get attention. Because I was actually called number two. My older brother was called number one, and my mother would call me and she'd say, I spoke to number one. So I developed what I call an Avis persona, because Avis, they used to have a tagline is, we're number two, we try harder. And so that was one of my most highly developed personas. We're number two, but we try harder. So you have a whole group of personas. Some are what we call putting your best foot forward kind of personas, and some are your troublesome personas. So the downside of my responsible persona was that I would kind of go martyr, and I would often get sick rather than saying, no, I don't want to do that. So you have both troublesome and successful personas, and it would be great just to note a couple of them. And if you find one, call it out. I'm just getting over being sick. I had COVID. So my nose is still a little bit, runny. So I'm going to be using my tissue rather than offering it to you. So what I'd love is if we have, if you could call out a persona and we could play with how that operates on the triangle.
Angry victim?
Angry victim. Okay, so, you're, oh, geez, now my cat is standing on the cards going, what is this? So angry victim would be, I've got one foot on victim and one foot on villain. So I'm angry because you. So any tendency to point your finger is a good indicator that you've got at least one foot in villain. Okay, great. Another one? Any else? You can just call it out.
Trying harder.
Trying harder. Well, that feels related. Is that related to hard worker?
Could be.
Could be. So I would say hard worker would have at least 1 foot in hero, and then the other foot, I would say, goes back and forth between the victim and the villain. Because one of the things that's really fun with the triangle is to tell a story. We're going to do this in just a second, is to tell an unenlightened story and feel into, or get friends to help you see, where are you standing? Because most of us have a rhythm for going around the triangle. So for the martyr, you might be hero, 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 then victim, poor me, why doesn't anybody help me? Oh, but I really know, but I know better. And then you go back. So you have a rhythm for going around the bases, called running the bases. So I see a hand up, but I don't see a person. So could you put your video on? So
Jasmine, are you there?
I'm here. It's Jasmine, but
Jasmine,
we don't have
hi.
light in the backyard.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, just go ahead and speak up then, please.
I'm so curious about the victim hero. Like, oh, you did this to me and I need to save you, and how to safely engage with that in like a healthy.
Right. It sounds like you're being very careful. So part of this is, do we actually see other people as whole and resourceful? So when I'm in hero, I actually do not see other people as whole and resourceful. Because without me, what would happen? If I didn't come in and assist, what would, I mean, look at what's going on here. Oh, yeah. So there is a poor you kind of inherent in the hero. And there's also an elevation of like, the, as has been made famous recently, I alone can fix it, is a super hero with more than one foot in the villain. You know, I alone can fix it, and I'm going to kill you if you try to. So there can be, most of these are a pattern of interactions. And then if you bring another person into it, it gets very interesting. Because if you're occupying one of the roles and you're really sticking to it, there are only two other available. So what that tends to create is the thing that you most complain about is the thing that you require. Now I want to just unpack that one for a little bit. So Jasmine, did I respond to you? I mean, it's a big question, but do you have more that you'd like to say, or?
Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Because I just see your hand there. So I wanted to make sure I was responding to you. The big move that takes you out of the triangle and into presence is to exaggerate the roles and to let yourself actually play rather than editing yourself and saying, oh no, I don't do that. And oh my God, that's so terrible. Or, I don't want anybody to see what I'm doing here. If you let yourself actually play with the triangle and you exaggerate what you're doing, it gets funny. If it's not funny yet, you're still in the triangle. And that's a really good way to tell that you're stuck. Because sometimes I'll say to people, oh, it's not funny yet, is it? And if they go, whoa, I know, I get to be right. So our defensiveness, your particular style of defensiveness is probably a combo plate. So you may go to victim first, and then you get growly if that, doesn't work. Or you might go to hero first, like, why can't we all get along? And then when that doesn't, you might go to victim, or you might go to villain. So it's not, mostly people don't stick to just one base. They have their own pattern. And so as you start playing with that, you can kind of loosen the grip of it. It doesn't help to understand it, because you understand it and you just keep doing it. The only thing that will really change it is changing how you act. And so I've found, because we've tried all kinds of different ways of playing with the triangle. And the one that's most successful is to exaggerate what you're doing. And if that's not working, drop the words out and just use sounds and gestures. So you can move around the bases like, and when you do that long enough, you break up the log jam and you start being able to make new choices. And one of the best new choices is choosing to see other people as whole and resourceful. So for me, that would lead to, I'm noticing something, and I wonder if you would like any feedback. I have a suggestion. Would you like to hear it? So the hero needs to learn to ask. And most heroes don't want to do that because they assume that the other person is a victim. But if you look at the other person as resourceful and maybe just stuck in the moment, or they got brain fog, or, they just are, caught in a pattern, and you say, I'd love to support you. And what do you want? So you are really seeing the other person as response able. So what I would love to do is, if there's somebody who would like to play and who has their, great. Okay. Thanks, Rhonda. Super. Let's do that. Let's highlight the both of us. Can you do that easily? Michelle, thank you. I'm going to turn mine to speaker. Okay. There we go. Oh, I love it when it works. It's so great. Okay. So what I'd like you to do, I'm going to ask you to be moving. I can't see the, but do you have your paper so that you have the roles that you can step onto?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. So put them on the floor. And I recommend when you're doing this at home or you're doing this with friends or colleagues, put the papers on the floor so that you can actually use your whole body to explore. So there you are. I love that. So what I'd like you to do is do you have an item in mind? Something that you want to explore?
Oh, sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, let's have you start on victim then. So go ahead and start on victim. Okay. And what I'd like you to do is to be totally unenlightened. And what I'm going to do is just ask you to shift to another base when I hear, and I'm also going to ask you to exaggerate certain things. Okay? All right. So that tone of voice. So I'd like you to start with that tone of voice and, yeah, great. So unenlightened.
This is too overwhelming. I can't handle it. I don't know what to do. The stock market's going to go crazy. The inflation rate, how am I going to get it all done? I don't know how I'm going to do any of this. It's just too much. It's too much. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. It's too much. I can't think anymore. This is just crazy. It's too much.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Great. And then what happens? Great. Okay, so you can just even sync off of the camera. So there she goes. So what happens then? Does somebody else come in?
No.
So
there's nobody.
There's nobody.
There's nobody can really help.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. And so when you go into victim, how long do you stay there?
Oh God. Way too long. That's why I'm on the call. I'm trying to get out.
There's this great Bob Newhart sketch that I want you to look up on YouTube. It's called it's Bob Newhart Stop It, or it's Bob Newhart's. So basically he comes, someone comes in to get therapy and she's describing, and he just says, well, stop it. And she goes on and goes, well, stop it. Right. Exactly. So I'd like you to go ahead and step onto villain. Yeah, step onto villain and look over at you in victim. Yeah, and just do some blaming of, yeah.
You disgust me. Get the frick off the ground and frickin' do something. Do something about it. Just do something about it.
Yeah.
You do something about it right now. I'm sick of hearing you scared all the time. This isn't going to help anything. What are you going to get done? How are you protecting yourself like that?
Yeah. Yeah. And so can you feel the adrenaline in that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Now step over into hero. Okay.
I know what to do. You just follow me. I got it wired. We'll get some kind of plan and we'll just get this done, logically. We'll be spiritual and we'll have calmness, and
yeah, let's do a little, just calm down. Calm down. Right. Now, how is you go back over to victim and respond to that?
I can't.
I just can't. I just can't.
It's too hard. Calm down. Do you know what nervous system I have right now? Do you know how many cylinders I got?
Now, villain, step over to villain.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have near enough. Come
Yeah.
on, pull it together, chick. What the hell is wrong with you? Come
Great.
on.
Now, just check and see, are you feeling any more just flow inside?
Oh, no, it's just like zzz.
Zzz.
Yeah.
Well, the zzz is probably adrenaline. So
Adrenaline. Yeah.
check around and under that. So part of this is to liberate. So it sounds to me like you do a lot of this inside yourself. So for you to rant,
Okay.
to just go ahead and just let it rip. And just make sure that you're going from one station to the other.
You
And
know what,
start.
Katie? I've been ranting, like self-ranting a lot. The problem is I've thought that I was so right about my rant that it's like I didn't stop ranting.
So it sounds like you were doing it mostly from villain and maybe one foot in hero.
Mostly villain, a little bit of hero, but that wouldn't last for long because
Right.
the victim would just
Yeah, the victim
start
doesn't.
collapsing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I also want to recommend is that when you start accelerating, drop the words out entirely and just use gestures and sounds.
Okay.
And let yourself go around the bases a little faster.
Okay.
Yeah, so just try that out for a minute or so.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So my sense is if you let yourself occupy those and you do it with some sounds and gestures, you're going to be experiencing more a loosening of the pattern. And you can just start to play with it. So when you find yourself going into that, see, I recommend that all of you have your place cards handy, because just 5 minutes of letting yourself go around the bases can go, oh yeah, okay, so now what can I do to step out of the triangle? And what was just occurring to me is to ask the victim, what do you want?
She wants to be safe.
Oh, she wants to be safe.
She doesn't know how to be safe in this world.
So she's scared and she doesn't know how to get safe. Yeah, beautiful. So one of the things I've experienced about safety is that I create safety most by saying something in the moment that's true, that's unarguable. So I'm just wondering right now, what's something that you could say that's unarguable?
Wow, this came up. I'm beautiful.
Oh, I'm going to osmose that one.
I'm not the fear. I'm the love underneath everything.
Yes, and you're the love around everything, in which there can be fear, because there's also this love that's holding it all. And when you say that, do you feel any difference in your yeah, beautiful. So that in general, so I'm speaking to all of us now, if one reliable way to get out of the triangle is to say something unarguable. The other one is to step out of the triangle now and step into occupying your whole self, your reach space, your tallness, you're around yourself, and breathe into all of that so that you're occupying your whole space. And then you're inviting other people to occupy their whole space. So everybody is whole and able to choose. Taking a big, full breath is also a great way Now, this is not going to keep you out of the triangle. You are going to get caught. We all get caught. And so one of the things that's been most useful for me is just to go, oh yeah, I'm in the triangle.
You are.
Here I am, because that also is unarguable. I go, oh, I'm in the triangle. And so I'm located, and that drops me out of my, cognitive dissonance into presence. So exaggeration, play, saying something that's true, breathing, but basically affirming that you're beautiful, I'm beautiful, and together we create rather than running around. So thank you so much, Rhonda. I'm going to come on back into the big group because I realize, my goodness, how time flies when we're exploring the triangle. That's really fun. So the introduction here, the way I really want to suggest that you continue playing if you're interested is have your pieces of paper, have them readily available. When you get caught, the tendency is to go heady and to go into content, the who said what and who did what. That just keeps the whole thing going. So the moment that you're able to exaggerate what you're actually doing in your body, you begin to break up the logjam. And you begin to turn it into play rather than really serious bad shit. So if you're willing to do weird stuff, you get out of the triangle much faster. If you're wanting to look good, welcome to being on the triangle merry-go-round, because that's one of the best ways of keeping yourself on it. And the moment that I start actually playing, and exaggerating, I think, is the best way to do that. When I start playing, I start opening up new choices. I literally start seeing things differently. I'll see possibilities. I'll see something that I've been doing that I didn't recognize before. But basically, when I'm doing that, when you see connections, you're actually taking responsibility, because that's what responsibility really is seeing the connections between things. I did this and then this happened. And it becomes cool, like, whoa, oh, rather than, oh, the victim would go, oh, poor me, I did that. Or the villain goes, oh, yeah, there you go again. Or the hero goes, oh, you're doing it again. Here, let me help. So those have been default for most people for most of their lives. And it's default in most cultures. So you're going to get a lot of support for being in the triangle and not so much support for being out of the triangle. So if you want to look for support for being out of the triangle, this community is a place where you can come and play and continue exploring in service of us all having more fun, because you can actually have fun with the triangle. So if you're serious, you're probably mostly in villain with maybe a little hero cape. You're like, I'm only telling you this for your own good. So you can start to hear your tonality. You can start to hear the things like, oh, this sounds familiar. You can start to wonder about where you learned this, because you may come from a whole family of heroes, with one bad sheep who gets to be the victim. So we learn these things and we can learn something new. So I'm thinking that we we don't have time for any questions. Wrapping it up right on the top of the hour. I really appreciate everybody for being here, and thank you so much for playing. This recording will be available, and you can always come to the Foundation for Conscious Living, the website, to get lots more free resources about how to play more and how to enjoy more connection. So thank you very much for being here, and enjoy. You better enjoy if you don't enjoy, I'm going to feel really bad, but I can help. Just write me 27 emails and I can help. Not cancel. All right. Mwah. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful.